This is Matt Allison, author and artist of Kankor. You're listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
Wow, that was nice, David.
Thank you, Vince. I appreciate you.
Oh, that's nice to
We
hear.
appreciate you.
Yeah, we appreciate everyone, don't we?
Most everyone.
Yeah, almost.
Everybody who voted the right way.
Oh, yes.
Appreciate them.
I forced family members to vote. Forced
We
them.
had no votes of confidence yesterday.
We had our mayor. It was obviously all local stuff and some propositions. My neighbor, Ron, we have two polling places across the street at the library or down at the Lincoln Depot Museum by the train station. So my neighbor works at the Peekskill train station. I saw him yesterday when we came home because he works the third shift. So I asked him, he's home all day. Did you vote? He's giving me all these excuses. I had ripping and running. I was doing this for my mom. I was moving furniture, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, he's like, now I got to get ready for work. I'm like, well, that's great because you can fucking vote down by your job. And as Renee and I are walking to our polling place, I get a text and he sent me a photo of his I voted sticker. So all's right in the world.
Well, if he sent you a photo, then you know it happened.
Absolutely.
Because there's
he
no
didn't
proof
post it on
without
the socials, so not
photography.
everybody knows, but at least
Yes.
I know. So
There
yeah.
you go. There you go. And you know that you're in for a good time because this is 11 O'Clock Comics episode 879. And I am Vince B.
Our Vince B. I am David A. Price.
Ooh.
It's true, and I am Spike Witwicky.
Did you read number 2? I didn't read it yet. It just came out.
I didn't read it yet either.
You're Jason Wood. You cannot be Spike Witwicky.
I can't?
No.
Damn.
No. All together now on this, a good old-fashioned Let's Just Talk About Comics episode of 11 O'Clock Comics, brought to you by CheapGraphicNovels.com. The proof is in the pudding and in the name, CheapGraphicNovels.com. Omniboo, collected editions, OGNs, manga. You wants it, they gots it at far less than the retail price. Remember, you're going to place an order, as you will, because you want to save money. Like, why would you pay more for these things than you absolutely have to? So you're going to place an order, and you're going to get an email confirmation that says, thank you very much, smart person, for shopping at cheapgraphicnovels.com. And you're going to reply to that email saying, you know what? My buddies, my dudes over at 11 O'Clock Comics sent me, and they, meaning Max, are going to gift you with free shipping on your next order. That is an incredible bonus. We know how shipping is these days. It's just stupid expensive. So you can bypass that on your second order and save a whole bunch of money at cheapgraphicnovels.com. Go there. Make sure you tell them we sent you, or you're not going to get anything extra other than savings, which is not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing at all.
No. You know what else isn't a bad thing? Crappy ass segue as it is. Beer is not a bad thing, and I have plenty. And diverse. Okay?
Such as?
I'm finishing the Sweetwater Brewing Company 420 Strain G13 IPA, which I absolutely love. This may be the go-to beer. I'm thinking this is it. If I had to drink nothing but this for the rest of my life, I would be a very happy man. But I'm going to mix it up. I'm also drinking another delectable brew from Samuel Adams. This is called Old Fezziwig, rich and spiced, seasonal. It's a lager. Yeah, it's a lager. I love Sam Adams. Call me basic. I don't really care. You call me that. I love Sam Adams beer. Just love it. If I lived next to the brewery, I would get a line right from one of their vats right into my house, and I would just drink Sam Adams all day long. Yeah. I'd be as big a Jabba the Hutt, but I don't care. It's delicious. There we go. That's what I'm drinking.
I legitimately was thinking the other day how I forget what beer tastes like.
Oh, that's sad.
It really isn't.
It is. No, it's very sad.
Yeah,
What are you going to drink in Valhalla? They don't have wine in Valhalla.
Mead.
Right,
Well,
mead,
I'm
which is...
but
You are going to Valhalla.
I'll drink wine, dude. I'm sure there's casks of wine.
They don't have
They will,
it.
yes, they will.
No,
will
they
have
don't.
wine.
I've been there. They don't have it.
Go to Stovacorn and drink blood wine.
Why don't you just bypass that? Just drink blood.
With a hard shit prune juice.
He didn't say what he was drinking, did he?
Oh, you're right. Shit.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
Not bad.
How about me?
Damn.
My radar.
I am drinking Glacier Cherry G0.
That's probably why I cut him off.
I kind of like the glacier, but I'm not down with the cherry.
It's so good.
Is it
Yeah.
though?
Although I fucked up the other night. Oh, yes, what I did this weekend? Saturday, I was putting in the miles, you know?
Oh yeah.
Always.
No,
We
but
do
like,
know.
I'm
Saturday's
legit
long.
offended by the commercials. I really am. But go ahead.
How are you? What?
Because they make it, I know they're designed to do this, but they make you feel lazy. They're just like, get up off your ass, get on the bike, ride, bitch, ride. And I'm just like, what? I'm watching Hallmark. Get this shit off.
Oh, I didn't even. I don't know that. I never see commercials.
They're very
Okay.
motivational.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they're motivational. I don't need it.
You talked about riding on Saturdays, and you were saying the commercials. Like, okay.
No.
But there haven't been, like when I ride long times, you know, I'm stacking rides together, right? Like that's the way I do it.
Yeah, that's how I do it.
But, yeah, but for the first time in 6 years, there was a 120-minute ride. So I and many of my long distance brethren and cisterns were on the ride, and it was glorious. 2 straight hours, not having to stop. It was great. But go ahead, boy. But halfway through though, 'cause I was like, I didn't really prepare. I was like, I didn't. So I didn't have enough water. You know, I ran out of water, and I'm like, damn. So I'm texting Holden. I'm like trying to get Holden to bring me some water. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So I have a G0, you know, which I usually use. I drink after I work out to get the electrolytes back. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get a little sip of this here to keep the train rolling. And it almost crushed me. Like it almost crushed me. There was like a 2-minute moment where I thought I'm gonna have to stop. Like it was terrible. I was like, man, I can't do that again. That's a terrible mistake.
Did you
Riding
ever?
for 2 hours or not having water?
No, drinking the
drinking the G0,
This
okay.
the ride. Yeah, it was a bad decision.
Did you ever have to poop on the bike?
No.
Never.
No.
You've
well,
ridden.
no.
You have had thousands of rides. You never like ooh. I mean, that never happened.
I mean, I'm sure it's happened where then I'm like, oh, when I'm done, I gotta go. I mean, like hop off. Oh, like that's. I've definitely gone like after a ride. Like
But never during.
No, it's
Let me pause this.
Yeah.
Let me make sure the instructor can hear me.
Now, see, if that was part of the Peloton experience, I'd be like down with it.
I've never had to stop a ride mid-ride.
Oh, right. Tiptoe.
So you said the first time in 6 years, did they just not? Was there a special occasion, or they just don't do 2-hour rides?
Well, I'm hoping it will start. So Matt Wilpers is one of the instructors. He's also one of the people who does the longer distance. He does like a 90-minute ride every 2 months, and he does a 60-minute ride every 2 weeks. But he's like, because he's a long distance. He was a collegiate long distance runner, and then he was a professional cyclist. So he's like one of the like legit sort of like endurance people on the staff. But anyway, it was his birthday, his 40th birthday. So
Nice.
he got them to prove the 120 minutes, and he said that he was joking during the ride that the producers were like, well, it's your birthday, so we'll let you do it, but like nobody's going to take this ride. And then there were 6,500 people on it live, and then over 20,000 people have taken it. So he was like, in your faces. And I think that number, I think they'll have more. Because he was like, all right, well, I think we got the green light to do these more often. So,
do the libraries last forever, or after like 6 months they put them in a vault, never to be seen again?
Here, a little bit of the column A, column B. They theoretically have all the rides. Like they don't go away for like on any regimented schedule, but they do take down a lot of the rides over time, and I have no idea why. I suspect part of it is that until Peloton came public, they were basically stealing music.
Right.
Like they knew they were, like they knew they owed, but like didn't have the money. And then when they came public, they settled for like, I think like $800 million they paid to like, basically pay off all the time they stole the music and then have the rights to use any music they wanted going forward. So I think a lot of the rides that are backwards looking that they probably didn't get clearance, they had to remove because of the music stuff. But yeah, like, and then sometimes they just take stuff down. I don't know why they take stuff down. Maybe because like, there's no filter while they're recording. So sometimes there's, a lot of times there's profanity and stuff. So I don't know I have no idea. I don't know why they take, but not everything is on there. To your point, when he was doing the ride, he was like, oh, this is the first ever 120-minute ride on Peloton. And someone in the audience, like the live audience, you can't hear them, but he was like, wait, what? They were talking to him, and he was like, wait. And someone in the audience told him, no, this is actually not. There was one 6 years ago, Christine Dercole did. And he was like, oh, I didn't know that. And he's like, is it on the platform? And they're like, no, it's not there anymore. So he's like, so even he didn't even know. So like, yeah, they're not all on there, but a lot of stuff's on there. I mean, you can go way back. I think part of it too is they probably realized from a storage perspective, like nobody goes back that far. Nobody goes back 5 years to a ride. Like it's just like, I don't see why you would, because you'd have to scroll. There's not like a search. You can't say, show me the rides from November, 2017. Like that doesn't like, there's no, you can't do, you have to be, it's like you're just scrolling, like you're literally just like, so I don't know who would have the patience to scroll through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of a type of ride to try and find one from 5 years ago.
It's the same thing with the Fitness Plus app. You can filter it with trainers, time, or type of flow. But yeah, you're not going to be able to like say, oh, I want to find something from like August 9th of 20. Yeah, but do you?
Did you guys remember why we're here?
Right, but so this is my last question because I haven't gone yet. But do you? I know I've asked this before. I think. Do you ride for distance or for time?
Both. Yeah, it depends on the day and what I'm doing.
Okay.
I always. Well, the actual answer to your question is it's always time because that's how Peloton's structured. Like you take a ride, it's a timed ride, right? So like, I'm always riding for a specific amount of time, but whether but how long I choose to ride, how many rides I stack, and the level of exertion varies depending on what I'm trying to do. So like yesterday, I did like a 45 minutes of Tabata, which is like high intensity. You basically sprint for 20 seconds, then you rest for 10, sprint for 20 seconds, rest for 10. You do that for, in this case, it was 45 minutes. That's like high intensity, like cardio where your heart's racing like crazy and it's super intense. Then like on a day where I'm doing like 50 miles, that's more of just like a steady state. Like I'm basically just pedaling at like a pace that I want to be at, which is usually for me like 21, 22 miles an hour. And I'm just trying to keep that pace for the whole duration until I'm done, So, but it depends. I mean, it depends what you're trying to accomplish.
Gotcha.
I mean, I know John Pasalacqua, but Sorry, Vince.
Just don't let it happen again.
I am drinking.
What did he say?
Oh my god, dude.
Okay. I hope Dab's drinking comics so we can get this bitch back on schedule.
Oh, God, it hasn't even been an hour yet. Settle down.
Oh my God. I'm going first. Go ahead.
Oh, that's new.
Yeah, it is new. It's so new, it's novel. Go ahead.
Make their small batch, unblended American whiskey.
We got to
no
get
cubes,
Tana
no
back.
rocks. We do. But I got this. I gotta kill this like nip in here. There's a chill going down my back, so I went with the whiskey because 'tis the season. It's nice and warm. Didn't want anything with ice, so there we go.
I woke up before. I thought it was at McMurdo base. I'm like, holy crap, it's cold in here. It was wicked cold.
Yeah.
I was looking for the thing. I wasn't trusting anybody. Like, whatever. I have something for Jason because I knew he would want to hear about this.
You love him.
I do. I love him so much that I thought, you know what? I'm gonna take my brother and uplift him with the gift of comics. I have been a fan of the 2099 universe like forever, since its inception. I think I'm not alone. You guys enjoyed it?
No, I wasn't a fan.
Of what?
The 2099 universe.
Yes.
Yeah, that wasn't my thing.
Really?
Yeah, we've talked about this before. I didn't read it. I didn't read much of it. I didn't stick with it.
Okay. Maybe I will convince you to try it because
Like I said, I've tried it. I just it wasn't.
All right, it's weird. Longtime fan. So
Yes,
I hold it very near and dear to my heart, as with many things from very specific periods in Marvel history. Like the majority of the stuff may be lost on me, but there's these little isolated pockets of goodness that I love from Marvel, and 2099 was one of them, with the exception of Ravage, which isn't really horrible, but definitely the ugly stepchild out of all of them, the 2099 books. So if someone's going to take a stab at 2099, I scrutinize very closely. Mm-hmm. And they don't get a lot of leeway. If it doesn't click immediately, I'm done. I'm out. Now, I know this writer is hit or miss with many people on the Slack. They use it in whenever they bring this man's name up, it's kind of in the same vein as good shaken, bad shaken, right? How that's supposedly a thing with many people, and I guess it kind of is, right? Especially when Scarlet Witch came out, they're like, "Oh, I hope this is good, Steve Orlando," and it was, right? It's a good series. So Steve Orlando wrote this, and I was like, "All right, Steve, you got one chance to win me over." So I read Spider-Man 2099 Exodus, which is not what I want to talk about, but I read that because it is the precursor to this book. Had that not been very good, I would not have read this. And this, what I'm going to talk about, was even better than Exodus. This is called Spider-Man 2099 Dark Genesis. It was written by Steve Orlando, as I said. Do you know who illustrated it? Justin Mason. Have you ever seen Justin Mason's work?
I have a commission from Justin.
He has a visual approach much like James Herron. I think he's very close to James Herron in terms of stylistic little ticks that he imparts into the work. Color art by Jordan Boyd and Antonio Fabela. Dap, I'm talking to you. This book is loaded with characters. It's only a 5-issue miniseries, but it is so chock full of characters that the pace of the narrative is crazy. There's so many characters, there's so many things going on that it's like lightning fast. There's no sitting around watching TV, kicking back with some beers. There's no deep introspective moments. It's all action. I'll tell you some of the characters that appear in this miniseries. It is the first appearance of Wesley Nakao. Do you know who he is? You don't know who he is, so I'm just going to tell you. It's Eric Brooks' son. It's Blade's son. But, like Dad, Wesley has an affliction, where Blade had the taint of vampirism. Wesley, in addition to being a surgeon, he's also a zombie. And what do zombies need? They need human flesh, right? But this is Blade's son, so I don't think Blade's son will be going around, and he's a surgeon. He has taken the Hippocratic Oath. So I don't think a surgeon and Blade's son will be going around just killing people and eating them. You know how he bypasses the whole must consume human flesh thing. He 3D prints human. That is really smart, isn't it? He's got a MakerBot in his little, area, and he just prints a nice little wafer of flesh, and then you go. The taint is alleviated, albeit briefly. I thought that was really cool. And he's got the katana, the swords, like Dad. He's cool, right? Daredevil 2099 is in this. Eric Nelson, who was created way back in the day by who? Do you remember? Who created Daredevil 2099?
Oh, no.
Warren Ellis.
Huh.
Yes.
Okay.
Moon Knight is in here, created by Len Kaminsky in 98, who was the guardian of the Inhumans base in the blue area on the moon. And he has a crescent crypt on the moon. That's his spire base. Now, I loved Punisher 2099, and he's in here, but this is not the Jake Gallows we knew from the ongoing Punisher 2099. He's in really bad shape in this book. At one point, he's nothing more than a head, remnant of a spine, lungs, and a little bit of intestine. Like, he's just fucked up. But he's placed in an android shell, and his mind has been... It's kind of like RoboCop. It's a lot like RoboCop, actually. His mind has been manipulated by Alchemax into like serving them. And do you know the nickname of the scientist that performed the operation on him? Just take a guess. Microchip. They call him Microchip. Like, this is feel good comfort comics, right? There's a Venom in here, Jason. So it'll make you happy. There is a Venom. But it's not Eddie Brock, and it's not anybody related to Eddie Brock. It's a young lady named Aaliyah Bell. Jodie Hauser created this character. And she's a survivor of a horrible accident that also killed her mother. Like, she was scarred. Her arm is all messed up and scarred. So she was, like, bullied. And Alchemax did an experimental procedure on her, which was based in part on, what do you think? The Venom symbiote. And the rest is history. There's another first appearance in this miniseries, and this is going to light up Jason's world. It's an Alchemax shareholder named Michael Eric. And you know the whole status, the whole dystopian future of Nueva York. Everything's based on the card system, which were implants. Mm-hmm. So if you have an aluminum implant, you're basically a worker. You're a drone. You're low level, economic, socio, low level. And then, it goes gold and it goes platinum and then platinum plus. But the top tier in the feeding chain was the black card. And the black card made you above the law. You had limitless wealth. You were one of the elites. So this Michael Eric was a black card carrying.
Oh, peoples.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not pretty for them. Because in the previous miniseries, Miguel O'Hara abolished all the black cards. Got rid of them.
Oh, not my people.
So now there's a power vacuum within Nueva York. And there's chaos. Because the dickheads, the abusers of society, the ones that never gave, abused, they're now at the bottom. So things are not pretty. And they blame they blame Spider-Man for sowing all this chaos and discontent and just violence and all that. But whatever. So this Michael Eric was a Alchemax shareholder who was somehow given possession of something that he stored in, his ritzy apartment, which was stormed by these aluminum card holders. They break into his crib and they loot and steal and they rough him up and he barricades himself in a room and he opens up this door and he's got this vial of stuff and it breaks and it gets all over him And guess what was in that vial?
Venom.
Close.
Carnage.
Yes.
There we go.
Carnage. So now this Michael Eric becomes Carnage 2099. And this Carnage needs blood to survive. So he goes on a rampage in the all-you-can-eat buffet that is New York. And Carnage has a real hard-on for Miguel's mutant blood. Like, there's one scene where he pierces his leg with his tail, and he's like, this blood, yeah, I want more of this. So, Ghost Rider 2099's in here, David.
Yay.
And he's sleeping with Lila. He's sleeping with Miguel's AI gal pal, Lila. Now, how do you think that happens? Well, there's one scene where she's talking to him. She's like, we got to do this because Miguel's special to me. And Ghost Rider does not like Miguel at all. But anyway, because in the previous volume, Miguel does something that really puts Ghost Rider in a bad spot. And so they're not friends. But Ghost Rider is outfitting Lila with upgrades. And there's a scene where she's asking him to do something, and he's like, blah, blah, blah. She's like, okay, we can commune in our own little private server and share our data. She's saying, I'm gonna fuck you after this. And Ghost Rider's like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I would too. Remember how Leonardi drew Lila? Like, yeah, I'm there. But one of the big bads from Alchemax, this board member named Mr. Cecilson, real dickhead. He's manipulating stuff from behind the scenes. The Carnage symbiote was used by Alchemax to try and develop some, curative properties like blood diseases, cancers, stuff like that. They were using the symbiote to try and alleviate, I shouldn't say alleviate because it is Alchemax. They are trying to make a lot of money on, the sick and the dying by offering this revolutionary treatment that would cure these ills. But at the core of it was the Carnage symbiote. So Carnage and this Cecilson are in the same room, and Carnage just beheads him, just kills him. And he continues to do what Carnage does, and the head starts talking. Like, it's like, wait a minute, I'm not done with you yet. And Carnage is like, what? He turns around, and it wasn't a human. It was the Loki of the 2099 universe, which is Halloween Jack. If you read the X-Men 2099, you know who this character is. And so Halloween Jack and Carnage team up to do what they do best, which is instigate chaos. And it's just a whole bunch of fun. Like, I thought this miniseries was great from the beginning. It's just all action. Punisher's messed up. Like, they outfit him like RoboCop. He's got this new android body, and he's working for Alchemax, and he's shooting people that were once on his side. Like, what is happening? And then, obviously he turns, but the whole thing is just Carnage and Halloween Jack going on a rampage. There's no deep meaning to this thing. It's just all it's a summer blockbuster action movie in the 2099 universe. You know who else is in this tonight? I did say it. Daredevil 2099. There's a double page spread with Daredevil, and he's jumping across buildings in the Eisner fashion. Like, you see multiple instances of his body doing these wonderful flips and turns and gyrations and stuff, and it is gorgeous. This double page spread is just amazing. This Justin Mason is just freaking phenomenal. That's what got me into it. See, I'll let you in behind the scenes because I love you. I saw the art from this before I read Exodus, and then I started this, and then not too long into it, it's like there's an editor's note, and it's like all these things that we just told you about on these past 2 pages played out in the miniseries Exodus. So I'm like, God damn, I got to read that first. So I put this on hold, went back and read Exodus, and it was good, but this is awesome, which makes me very, very excited for the upcoming miniseries, which is tied to this, called Miguel O'Hara Spider-Man 2099. Because not only is a continuation of this goodness, but you know who it features in one of the issues? Man-Thing, 2099.
Oh, snap.
So I got to get it. But this is just wonderful. It was delightful to read this. I just pure unbridled fun. And I recommend, if anyone out there is a fan or has fond memories of the 2099 universe, you should send Steve Orlando a thank you card, because you're going to read this and you're going to love it. It's that good. It's a lot of fun.
That's great. We should do a symbiote trivia with you one of these episodes.
I'm not Peter Rios. I don't have instant recall. Yeah, big picture, yes, but the fine details, no. I don't pride myself on that kind of.
There are a lot of symbiotes, dude.
But in the latest issue of Venom, it's. I have to admit, it's borderline stupid that Natasha should have a symbiote. She doesn't need one. She's perfectly capable, all on her own, as the Black Widow. But she's Widow in Venom, and she has a symbiote. I think that's really close to pushing it. There's a giddy part of me that's that's because it's Natasha in a symbiote, so nothing is left to the imagination, right? That's fun, but does Natasha really need a symbiote? I don't think so.
Certainly not.
But I am. If there's ever a mark for the symbiotes, it's me.
Oh, this is true.
You and Steggy.
Oh, my dude. I love him. So there you go. Spider-Man 2099, Dark Genesis. Read it. You're going to love it. I'm telling you.
You know what I'm going to do, Dad? I'm going to come up with a list of names, and then next week I'm going to ask Vince, is it or is it not a symbiote?
Yes, that's perfect.
All right. Because there's a lot. You could really say yes probably to every answer.
Yeah, there is a lot. There's a lot. And it's not even Eddie Brock in the symbiote anymore. It's the son now, which figure that out, because the proportions are all different. But when he venomizes or whatever, he's giant, like Dad. I just don't understand.
You mean Dylan, right?
Yeah, Dylan. I just don't understand it. I don't get it. But it's whatever. It's fun.
That makes as much sense as
because the Osborn
Thunderbolt Ross's mustache disappearing when he becomes Red Hulk with black hair.
I was going to say isn't the Osborn grandson a symbiote these days?
No, he's a goblin.
He's Red Goblin.
Red Goblin.
Yep.
But
that's a fun book too.
Oh,
in 700, he did get hit with. I
was going to say he's Rascal. His name is Rascal.
Yeah. Misery. Liz Allen is a symbiote. She's called Misery. It's nuts. This is not. Oh, speaking of
Eddie Brock's been Venom. He has been Toxin.
Yes.
He's been Anti-Venom.
Anti-Venom, yep.
So
he's got a lot of experience with the symbiotes. That's why he's not dead. Eddie Brock's not dead. They quotes dead. But so that's why Dylan took over, because he's looking for Daddy.
Right.
It's fun stuff. Isn't that?
I'm pleased that it pleases you.
It pleases me greatly. It really does. Good. Yeah. I know that when I pick up one of these books, say the book of the month would be Monica, right? And I'd be like, oh fuck, because I know there's going to be a lot of heavy lifting. I'm gonna have to look for nuances and metaphor and symbolism. Fucking Venom, I just go in. It is what it is, right? It's just good, fun comics. And not that I don't like books like Monica, but there are times when I just want to I want to play in Nueva York. I don't want to have to use the part of my brain that discerns subtleties. It's just fucking carnage running around sucking up people's blood. Okay, that's all I need at the moment.
No doubt.
Whatever. These things, they just give me joy. I'm sorry. I'm not. You know what? Screw that. I don't want to say I'm sorry. I like these books.
You shouldn't apologize.
Exactly.
I don't apologize. I don't.
Shit, I don't apologize for anything I fucking read.
It's true.
Exactly. I know how much you all love it, so.
Well.
Uh-huh.
I would never deprive you of your joys.
I know that.
It's true. Let's continue.
Let's do it.
Well,
What you got, Jason?
Let's do it. Well, I'll just go right to the best thing that I read this week because it's already late. You guys were just meandering about other things for too long, so got to get right to it. Got to get to effing, as they say.
take the bridge.
Yeah. Humanoids. You may have heard of them.
Oh, nice.
Some pretty badass comics. Oh, now I have your attention.
No, yeah, but did you? I don't mean to derail you, but did you see in the latest previews that the Metabaron second cycle is being offered in not one but two flavors?
I have not looked at the previews for this month yet.
You can get a trade paperback of all 4 chapters, which when I say chapters, they're 120 pages apiece. You can get a trade paperback which collects all 4 volumes of the Metabaron second cycle for I think the cover price is $50, so it's much less other places, right?
Oh, nice.
And you can get volumes 1 to 3 in a previously offered hardcover edition, and volume 4 as a specially priced hardcover edition. So if you bought the hardcover, they're offering the last chapter in hardcover formats to complete your hardcover set. But if you didn't buy any of it, you can buy a 4-in-1 volume softcover. It's nice of them to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Nice. So we have Humanoids to thank for this. They brought over I believe this was French, a classic French bande dessinée. Although you would know it from the subject matter, the art style, or the name of the artist, but we'll get to that. It is The Cat from the Kimono, written and drawn by Nancy Peña. And like I said, you would assume she might be Spanish or Latin American, but I looked her up. She is, in fact, a French artist and has put out 12 graphic novels. So she's been around for quite a while. I must admit, if I've read something from her before, I don't recall doing so. But this book is one of those books that is very difficult to describe, better seen. But I can tell you that it was amazing, and in no small part because it's hard to describe. But I'll give it a quick try. First of all, Peña's art style, most of her work, like the majority, I was looking around at some of her old stuff, like the majority of her work, if you were to describe her art style, it would be she renders in a form of that it looks like engravings. Like she's inspired by 19th century English engravings. Like that's how most of her comic storytelling looks. In this book, she took 2 approaches. A good chunk of the story, once we get into the narrative, is her classic style, but it is interstitially. The beginning of the book, and then interstitially, we get a very different style, which is that of very ornate Japanese paintings, like Japanese murals. And that's because of the subject matter, which is that there was a beautiful maiden. She's the daughter of a very successful Japanese businessman who owns a silk mill, and he spoils his daughter rotten, as dads of daughters are wont to do. And he's always having his mill workers create beautiful new kimonos for her to wear. At one point, the most talented mill worker creates a kimono that is red silk with black cats sewn into it, like silk cats. And it becomes her favorite, and she just loves it. But unbeknownst to the maiden, the mill worker who creates these kimonos is smitten by her. He's in love with her. So he professes his love to her, and she basically laughs him off. She has no interest in him, probably because he's a peon, what have you. So he feels some kind of way. So he creates a kimono for himself to wear of mice. And when he walks in to see her, the kimono with the mice is so well rendered that the cats on her kimono become agitated and start pulling her towards his kimono. and this continues until it gets to a point where she gets so frustrated that she sneaks into his bedroom one night, I guess, like stealth style, takes the kimono, and over the course of the night paints bloody spears through each and every mouse on the kimono. And when he wakes up, he sees his kimono is now rendered full of speared dead mice, and her cat's no longer trying to chase them. But him being, the talent that he is, he's like, oh, fuck this bitch. I got something for her. So this time he creates a new kimono, and it's of herons, of birds. And the herons are much stronger, and they have much more appeal to the cats. And the cats go batshit crazy when they see this heron kimono. So crazy that one of the cats actually manifests out of her kimono into the real world, as does one of the herons, and it runs away chasing after the heron. And she is beside herself, because not only is her kimono fucked up now, but the cat that escaped was the one that sat on her heart and was her favorite. So she's just feeling some kind of way. So all of this is rendered in like a Japanese fairy tale vibe, right? In this Japanese painted style, like these big murals. But then the book shifts to a completely different style, which again is more akin to, if you're familiar with her work, to her normal work, a much scratchier, sort of single line weight, kind of less detailed style. And we basically get this crazy adventure of this cat that has manifested. And the cat goes through almost like a Forrest Gumpy type of a journey. It survives for a while. It's in the ocean. It escapes and falls in the ocean, and then a giant fish eats it, and it eats the fish from the inside out to sustain itself. And then it keeps doing that. It keeps jumping, intentionally getting swallowed by big fish, and then eats the fish until it's gone. And then eventually a fishing ship finds it and brings it onto its boat, and hijinks happen there. And basically the cat is looking to reunite with the maiden and the kimono. And it comes to pass that the maiden ends up moving to London. And so the cat ends up in London. And it gets really weird from there, because now this cat is wandering through London, and who does it have an adventure with? Dap, Sherlock Holmes and Watson. And Holmes is fucking out of his mind, because he's seeing the cat, and the cat's, it's a magical cat manifested from silk, so it takes different forms, it can grow, it can look different, and he's bugging out, and he thinks it's the cocaine that he's on. And Watson's like, dude, I tell you, you got to get off this stuff. And he's like, so he thinks, so he's bugging out by he's thinking he's seeing things. Then the cat has a run-in with Alice from Alice in Wonderland. And it goes on from there, and it's like just this crazy, like wildly quirky, non sequitur adventure where this cat has all these different run-ins with different pieces of English, lore and fiction, and it eventually comes to a resolution, which I'll save. But our man Watson's involved in the sense that kimonos are a very hot fashion style in London at this point, and his wifey's begging him to get one of these kimonos, but dude isn't making any money right now because Holmes keeps taking all these like pro bono cases, and Holmes is like, nah, dude, like I promise, you need to get your wife a kimono. We're gonna take a big paying case next time, I promise. Like all these like crazy little asides. Like I'm reading this book, and then all of a sudden it's like Sherlock Holmes and Watson. Like, wait, what? And it's like it just was really fascinating and super weird, and definitely like nothing I've read ever before, which I love. And I was totally here for it. So I have to check out more of her work. I don't know if how much of it's been published in English. I hope there's a bunch. Because this was just delightful on every level. I mean, her visuals are great. The storytelling is great. Pacing, it's fun. It was a little bit creepy the way it was rendered, which I think it should have been. But also, like I said, you had these strange little like run-ins and unexpected cameos. And it was just a blast from start to finish. And it was a pretty quick read. It was like, let's see, I don't have a page count. 101 pages. So not really that of a onerous endeavor. And I think it's great. I think if you're an indie comics fan, this is going to be one of your favorites of the year. I would dare say. So you got to check it out. It's The Cat from the Kimono by Nancy Peña via Humanoids.
Black, white, and red. Perfect.
Yeah, black. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's perfect.
Yep.
Looks really nice.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, since Vince went down memory lane,
Little Manhunter talk.
no.
Lobo talk.
What talk?
Little Lobo talk. Little Grendel talk.
There's no Lobo book being offered currently, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Well,
unfortunately.
he said a walk down memory lane. It could be going way back.
Oh well, yeah, but no. Well, it'll make sense. Just like Vince is all about the 2099. There's a sequel to Superman 78, still written by Robert Venditti. This time not illustrated by Alfredo Torres, which is fine. But this is the first issue of a new mini called Superman 78: The Metal Curtain. Illustrated by Gavin Guidry and colors by Jordie Bellaire. And the issue starts off with the usual, we're witnessing from afar Krypton exploding, and what is shooting through space you think might be the cradle, the ship that brought Cal to Earth. But after a few pages, you realize it isn't. It actually lands in Baruta, USSR, in 1951. In a shed on some farmer's property. And he's just, the dude is just staring at this meteorite, just not wondering what the hell to do with it. We then cut to Metropolis decades later. What I like about Guidry's art over Torres in this case is that I like his version of the Margot Kidder Lois Lane a little bit more than Wilfredo's. They both do a good job of giving you that aw shucks Christopher Reeves expression, whether he's Clark or Superman. But the story is it's a complete setup for what's going on. Where the bulk of the issue, we're watching Superman in action because Lois is investigating a story where she is. It's apparently the U.S. Army is packing something onto a truck and letting it leave a warehouse, and Lois is recording this conversation. But being Lois, she draws attention to herself. And the colonel, who was kind of spearheading things here in this little operation so far, he puts her on a little dinghy because they're by the docks. She's screaming, you'll all be court-martialed. Do you know who my father is? I'm warning you, this is your last chance. They tie her up, gag her. Actually, they tie her up with chains. They gag her. This Colonel Evers, he's letting Lois know, I know exactly who your father is. I'd like to be there when he hears his daughter is dead, and destroys the tape recorder. Turns on the engine to the little boat and lets it go off into the water as it's on a collision to the side of a big oil tanker. Lois is trying to scream through the gag. She mumbles something that would be very similar to Superman, who of course comes and swoops down and saves her. He doesn't stop the boat from hitting the bigger boat, and the crew is starting to sink, so he goes and rescues them, seals up the boat, makes sure everything's nice, and then heads back to Lois. The next day, we're at the Daily Planet, where Lois is convinced this is the story of the century. but Perry is like hearing none of it because there's no sources. We got no witnesses. And all the while he's talking about how dangerous this story was. And all, Perry's like, the story's just too risky. Of course, Perry is talking about the story itself and how to vet it and make sure everything is up to snuff. And all Clark is talking about it was risky because Lois was out so late in that dangerous part of town, and Perry's not hearing none of it. Great conversations. This I think reminded me more. This felt like more of the first movie than the first miniseries did, and I did enjoy that. But I'm liking the setup on this one. We then cut back to now Moscow, and there's a secret military bunker, and we Colonel Evers in air quotes, we see somebody's uniform basically being incinerated in some oven-looking cremation device. It turns out that Colonel Evers was just, he was a ringer. He was not he's not an American citizen. So while all of this is going on, this dude is telling the former Evers that Superman is he's basically a living work of propaganda. He exists only for his own achievement. He is held separate and apart from the people, and it's just all this anti-American rhetoric going on in this conversation. Introduces Evers, the guy in charge, to kryptonite, and he says, you don't need to fear it. It's harmless to us, but to him it's poison. And we see the reveal of the ultimate Soviet soldier. It's basically a big version of like it's very similar. It's almost like a cross between, the design is similar to Luther's exoskeleton with the high collar, but it's very reminiscent of Tony Stark's Mark I armor. But it's basically it's introducing Metallo to the movie universe. So this dude is going to get into the suit. It's the end of the issue. The Americans will call you Metallo. Your name will mean America is no more. And homeboy's just like all grinning about putting on this suit, talking about how he's going to make the people proud. And that was the end of the first issue. So it'll be American versus Russia, I guess, for some of this series. It'll be interesting to see how. I'm curious to see how Venditti's going to. Obviously, this is after the first movie. We've already established that Superman and Kryptonite. His reaction to it just in the first movie. It's not like it was a big reveal later on. So he's had experience, or at least he's interacted with Kryptonite before, but never in this particular state. So yeah, I just thought the art was neat. I thought I think Robert Venditti does a solid job of recreating the movie universe, the cast, the dialogue, with the stories he's told so far with the first mini and now with this first issue. But I didn't. Like I said, I enjoyed the first book. I wasn't sure. I thought maybe based on how that first miniseries ended, that if they were going to do a sequel, it was going to go somewhere else, not this. But I'm okay with this first issue, with this setup. Don't know if we're going to see Lex. Don't know if Lex is still in prison. Don't know if we're going to call back anything from the first miniseries. And there really weren't any markers in this particular issue to let me know, to let the reader know, I think, like which movies this may fall between. So yeah, I'm just taking it at face value. It's another story in the early Superman movie universe. But yeah, I dug it. It was a nice surprise. It could have gone one way or another. I'm happy with it. So, but also, I mean, being the first issue, I could say that you probably just picked this up without, because like I said, there isn't anything really connecting it to the first mini. So you could probably just pick this up and run with it as it comes out. So yeah, I dug it. I checked it out. Not after I saw Vince's list with Spider-Man 2099, but I figured I'd at least mention this as kind of a bookend of sorts to the 2099 talk.
You want to hear something kind of funny?
Always.
You wouldn't know this because you don't live in proximity to me. But for many decades, there was a tuxedo rental local chain called Metallo's Formal Wear.
Okay.
So whenever I hear the name Metallo, I'm thinking, oh, he's fighting the fiend of formal wear. He's going to try and gussy Superman up for the prom or something. Like it's one of those triggers that because it was a local place and everybody got their tuxedos there, it was the only place to go. Metallo is the formal wear king.
That's great.
It's not. It's just silly. It's just something that
it is silly, but I love it.
It's silly.
Great.
It's silly.
Surprised you didn't call him Metallo, Vince.
Because that's not his name. Metallurgic, right? There's a word in there.
All
right.
It's Spanish for me.
Listen, how was it? Was it maybe 2-3 weeks ago that we talked about Mobilis? Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, New York Comic Con.
Yeah, okay, that's right. Okay, there you go. Well, we're back. We're back again. Mr. Juni Ba, the man of 1,000 books. Just less than a month after Mobilis hits the stands, Dark Horse gives us the unlikely story of Felix and Macabber.
Boy, you just hate me with the featured image, do you?
What do you mean?
Because I want to put something you've read on the featured image, but if I put this title, there's room for nothing else. Like, read something that has, like, 1 or 2 words in the title.
Read an X-Men book.
How about just read great comics? How about that? Like,
all right, okay. I could just put Juni Ba. How about that? I'll just put Juni Ba.
There we go.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because if you go back and look at the solicit materials for said book, Dark Horse is like an all-new, all-ages graphic novel by the team of Juni Ba and Hassan Otsmane-Elhaou. Now, that is a very hard name. I've seen it a lot. He is one of the probably the better known letterers in comics these days, but it is his name is quite a handful. But I'm pretty sure it's Hassan Otsmane-Elhaou. That's how you say it. But anyway, so I'm like, oh, brand new graphic novel. But then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not sure. Like something was like, this doesn't. I feel like this has come out before. Well, I don't know how Dark Horse gets away with billing it as a brand new all new graphic novel, because this was actually a project that these two gentlemen did together 7 years ago. And it was crowdfunded through an early Kickstarter competitor called Unbound. They were more like a Zoop, I guess, in that they published the book for you. If you got it funded, they published it. I don't know if they're around still. I can't think that I've ever remember backing or seeing a Unbound campaign, but nevertheless, they made this book through Unbound. Now I'm guessing that the reason Dark Horse is packaging it this way is, one, because these two gentlemen's profiles are much higher now than they were 7 years ago, and two, I'm guessing Unbound because it was crowdsourced and self-published technically, that it never was really like published in any great quantity, right? Like that would make sense. So even though the book did exist in a prior form, It's probably largely out of print. It's probably not been read by many people. So, like, I get it. Little, whatever, little marketing gimmick. Neither here nor there. The point is, it's like me. I think the vast majority of people are discovering this for the first time here this month. Now, what's pretty neat about this, well, there's lots of things that are neat about it, but what's really cool to see this just weeks after reading Mobilis is that this book was made when Juni was 23 and 24 years old. Juni's in his 30s now. Or just turned 30, I think. And so the style of the art is vastly different. Still great, very much, but different. And if those of you that are familiar with Juni's work, this book looks more in terms of the style and the sort of, there's a little bit more of an edge to the line. It's a little bit more frenetic, a little bit looser. This reminded me more of like Monkey Meat than so if I had to like kind of if I had to make a path of rough freneticism to polish, it would be this, then Monkey Meat, then Jalea, and then Mobilis. Now, I happened to see an interview with Juni, a written interview not too long ago, and he actually made the point that, no, I mean, Mobilis is his most recent work, but it's not just a question of the style in Mobilis looks more finished and tight, but by design. He wanted, I think he said he wanted Mobilis to be like his coffee table book, like his one foray into like highbrow, like comic making. Like, so he really took his time, and like the line weights are very, like everything is very finished and polished in Mobilis, versus these books are meant to be a little more frenetic. But either way, if you were a fan of Jalea and Monkey Meat stylistically, you'll absolutely love this book too, stylistically. Dap, you may not realize, because I don't know that you ordered this book yet, or if you haven't read it, but it is a wrestling book. This book came together because Hassan, who I don't know if he still does, but at some point he also made a living as a documentarian, and he was making a documentary about a decade ago on professional wrestling, and that he knew, I guess, nothing about professional wrestling before that. And one of the things that he was taken by as he was making this documentary is that the lineage of professional wrestling, and how so many kids basically that got in, well, how many people got into the business as kids because they idolized these big giant, men that they saw wrestle and wanted to be like them, much kind of the way, the whole superhero mythos. And he was fascinated by that. So he had this idea of making a comic about that. And then, unbeknownst to Juni, was just graduating from art school, and he reached out to Hassan, I think professional networking, and they became fast friends. And Hassan said, "I love your work." He saw samples, and I think Juni had created a graphic novel or two as part of his degree. And Hassan said, "Let's do a book together," and that became what that became this. And it took basically close to 8 years for the finished product to reach most of our eyeballs. But the premise is, it is a monster book. Both Felix is a child, school age, I'm guessing like middle school, like he's an awkward, undersized kid, hasn't gone through puberty yet, gets picked on mercilessly by the bigger bullies in the school. And it's a world of monsters, right? Like, that kind of thing. And he's just having a tough time. I mean, he's, like I said, he's little, he's not confident. People are picking on him all the time. And he's desperate to obviously, go through puberty and be able to defend himself and the like. And there's a big old house in their neighborhood that's, the old haunted house. Every town has one, right? And through a set of circumstances, he ends up having to go to the house and, ring the doorbell and the like. And this gigantic, hulking old man, old monster, but he's a monster, but he's, an old, like anthropomorphic, like old monster man. He opens the door, and it's who we find out to become Macabber. And they end up becoming intertwined, and we kind of learn about their stories and their history. Macabber was like the best monster wrestler of all time. He was the GOAT. And so Felix adores that, and he wants to hear all the stories, and he dreams of someday becoming like him. But as he's getting to know Macabber and learning of his history, Macabber's view of his life isn't the way that Felix sees him. Macabber's life, even though, yes, he did become the most popular, monetarily successful, famous wrestler of all time, he's a sad old man now who has no friends. And part of that is because he basically bowled over everyone to get to where he was. You know, he suffered no fools. He broke friendships and loves and relationships at every turn, effectively, to become the best of the best. Right? That was the price he paid. That was the devil's contract, if you will. And so we see that journey, right? And then Felix, and we see how Felix adapts to that and has to come to terms with whether or not like he wants to follow the path or not. And I'll leave some of that because we do see how Felix's life evolves and goes from there. But it was just this really wonderful story. And the neat thing is, again, it's like one of those juxtapositions that it's an all ages book about the cycle of life and kind of being careful you get what you wish for, and how maybe the things we aspire to when we're young aren't necessarily what we ultimately want, especially if it comes at a cost that we didn't anticipate when we were young. And there's a lot of beauty in that. It's a story that's been done before in other ways, but the fact that it's done this way in Juni's world building, where it's this, this crazy existence where there's all these different creatures, it makes it really appealing because of its uniqueness and the way that it's rendered, right? Like, it's hard you wouldn't think you could root for monsters, right? I mean, no, there's probably a lot of people listening that were Pixar kids saying, what about Monsters Inc.? It's like that vibe, right? Like, you end up rooting for these like creatures that are supposed to scare the shit out of you, but because they're humanistic and have hearts, you end up kind of becoming, adherent to them and thinking, oh, that's pretty cool. So it's really well done. I mean, like I said, the character designs are pretty cool. It's definitely got like a Tim Burton vibe to it, like there's some Nightmare Before Christmas Beetlejuicy kind of things going on, with some of the monsters. I thought it was great. It had a ton of heart. It is an all ages book. So for those of you out there that are always on the search for that, and if you're in any way a Graps fan, which I know Dap and I certainly are, there's that vein of it too. So it kind of checks a lot of different boxes and brings them together. And you would think in less deft hands it could have been like too much going on, right? Like it's almost like, so it's a wrestling book and it's a all ages book about cycle of life and it's a monster book. It can sound like it's too convoluted, but to their credit, they do pull it all together in a really well done, well executed story. So I really thought it was terrific, and I think it's really fun to read two works from a creator at two very different points in their career in such in back to back, basically less than a month, because you can really compare and contrast. I mean, I think probably by design. I'm sure I'm sure that's not something that Juni would like be against people doing in this case. So really, really awesome stuff. And I think Juni is he's just having a hell of a couple of years, right? Like, I mean, it's funny because I think some people think he's burst on the scene over the last 3 years, but as we've come to learn, I mean, a lot of the work we're seeing from him now is stuff that he's been working on for quite literally a decade, and it's all just finally coming to a head. So kudos to him, well earned. Kudos to Otsmane-Elhaou too. I don't, Vince Dapp, I don't know did you guys ever read Panel by Panel? Because that was like, I know that's the first time I've ever heard of him. He put that Panel by Panel book out for magazine out for years. It was about the comics industry. But I don't think I've ever read it. So I know that's where I first heard of him, but I don't think it exists anymore. But did you guys ever read that?
I have not.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I think he won an Eisner for it and stuff. Like I said, I definitely knew of it, but I never found myself coming across the magazine. But either way, so really cool stuff. And, I think Juni is either completely or at least trending to the model of like a DWJ, where he's now at a point in his career where he wants to and can just create his own stories, write and draw them. But this was a case, right, where he was drawing in conjunction with a writer. So, but I still very much felt like a Juni Ba book in as much as there's some, in as much as I've read his other stuff that he wrote, it didn't feel like a big departure from that stylistically. It seems like these guys definitely vibe in terms of how they wanted to go about making a comic. So, yeah, really good stuff.
Nice. Well, are you both ready?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
you're holding me over at the beginning with that symbiote.
I know, but you still got some air in your tires. Now we got to tag team, all three of us, on something we've read. Yes.
Fine.
Yes. For the people playing at home, if you ever wanted to see the Wolfman tear off a young lady's face with his teeth,
Oh, there we go.
man, boy howdy, have I got a book for you. It's called The Midnite Show, #2, written by Cullen, Bunn, illustrated by Brian Hurtt, color art by Bill Crabtree. Holy mackerel-andy. I wish I got this last week. But rectifying that oversight, it continues right where the first one left off. The chaos is erupting at the Argent Theater. You know, you remember, we talked about this recently. It was the site of Basil Saxon's film festival screening, his lost and apparently haunted masterpiece, God of Monsters. There's a tornado of bats that spew from the screen, along with, yes, you guessed it, Dracula. And he's putting the bite on the theater patrons. Art emerges into life, which affects art. This is great. Abigail Jenner, you remember the Scream Queen that was in the lobby, bored out of her mind? Well, she takes matters into her own hands in this issue, pun intended, and she squashes bats. Barehanded.
Snapping necks.
Just squashing bats, man. Dr. Morbid, Mr. Oswalt, Jason and the kids flee into the streets. But the streets of Cedar Bluffs are changing, and people are dying along the way. I don't want to give too much away. Just read the damn issue. The streets of Cedar Bluffs are changing. What? They're transforming into something out of a Hammer film. But not a Dracula film. No. The film was called, and Dr. Morbid knows immediately. He's like, wait a minute. This is not a Dracula film. This is Gulp, Terror of the Wolf, the second film in the series in which the werewolf had been bitten by Dracula. And he's not a werewolf. He's a necro-wolf. What? What is happening? And then he rips off poor Trina's face in graphic detail. See, here's the deal. All of the monsters. So you have the Mummy, Amon-Rezar. You have Dracula, Frankenstein, and again, it's okay to call him Frankenstein because in this instance, Victor's brain has been implanted into the monster's body. So yes, Frankenstein. You have the Necrowolf, and I don't like the name, but I guess they got to get around it somehow. The Dweller, which is in essence the creature from the Black Lagoon. All of the monsters are at war. They're all killing their way to the top of the food chain, the exalted position of God of Monsters. And people are dropping like flies. Amon-Rezar kills a very, very, very special member of the cast. I was sad. And then throws down with Frankenstein, who is draped in car batteries. Yeah. He needs electricity. He needs the juice. So what does he do? He wires up a bunch of car batteries, and he's got them around him like a frickin' bandolier. It's great. And then somebody shows up at the end. I really don't want to give too much away because I think the joy in this is just experiencing it as it unfolds, right? But we have to talk about something. And if you're a monster kid, of which I am, of which Matthew Allison is, and Gordy, we have a bunch of friends that are monster kids. You guys know what monster kids are, right? Yes?
I'm going to guess those of you who were brought up on the monster serials.
No.
The movies, not the...
No. Well, yeah, yes and no. I mean, if you were born like in the 60s,
right,
you were lucky enough to experience the second wave of Monster Mania, right?
Okay.
It started in the 50s with Famous Monsters, and it just and the syndication of all of these great monster films in the Shock Theater package, right? And then it cooled for a little while, but then in the 60s it ramped up again. And Famous Monsters was the shit, and Aurora and all of the Mego and just Captain Company and so there's two waves of monster kids, of which we, our friends, myself, are the second wave. So this book speaks to monster kids because it's just plain, monster club fun. There's all the monsters and they're all fighting, and they're the classic monsters, give or take, and I think it's wonderful. It's just, it again, yes, it's entirely nostalgia based. But when you have somebody like Brian Hurtt in the driver's seat, delineating these creatures, it is an awesome sight to behold. Is it not?
Absolutely. Like we said after the first issue, like it is. I had forgotten how much I love Brian Hurtt's artwork because it had been a minute since I saw it.
I liked him on the Six Gun and the Damned and like but this to me, like, this is right smack dab within the chambers of my foul beating heart. Like this.
Oh, of course. That's why we were so excited if you read the first issue.
Yeah.
After I read it, I was like, oh, Vince is going to spot when he sees this.
Yeah,
it's almost like. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, just his Frankenstein is a tad too handsome.
Right.
Just a little bit. Like, he's not as grotesque as he should be. But his Wolfman is not the Lon Chaney Jr. Wolfman. I think it's more the Paul Naschy Wolfman, which is, stop. Like, that is the, I mean, I don't want to be branded a heretic. I love Lon Chaney Jr., but the Paul Naschy Wolfman is like, that's my Wolfman. I love it. And it's just creepy and just dripping with the ambiance that we love from these movies. The fact that the very streets of Cedar Bluff are changing to mimic the actual backlots of these movies and the scenery from that's just great. So and look at this, the cover of the second issue with Frankenstein reaching out of the screen into, like, I'm also a sucker for 3D movies, always have been, and this is just, it's comfort comics. No bones about it. But this one strikes smack dab right in the middle of my heart. So it's going to be tough. I hope this miniseries ends before the end of the year. It doesn't. It doesn't?
The third issue comes out on December 6th.
Oh, shit. We're done now. We're done. Can I change the rules and bend the rules?
No. Well, listen, the bulk of the miniseries will have been completed.
But that's never been enough for you. It can't be the bulk. It has to
Why
end.
are we worried about me?
Because you're the authority figure here.
Oh my God.
It has to end within the 2023 brackets.
Yes, I know what I like, but that doesn't show me.
It doesn't qualify. It doesn't qualify. Unfortunately.
I mean, listen, lots of people that vote for partial miniseries, but and as much as DAP sometimes may go a little too adherent with the faux rules, I'm with them on this. If a miniseries is finite by definition, I don't know how you can make it your favorite thing in the year if you haven't read all of it. Like,
that's what I'm saying. So I doubt that Cullen and company are going to shit the bed on the fourth issue. But you never know. It could be a musical number.
Well,
then it's just ruined.
There we go. What's what we're feeling? Is it possible that if we get the fourth issue PDF from Dark Horse, if you read that, I understand. I mean, I'm with you. Like, if what's the cover date? When was it on the stands?
Technically,
that's what I go
it would
by,
be
just
finished.
Because yes. Oh, I'm sure.
But
it's
no,
done. I mean, if you called Cullen up now, he'd probably be like, "Yeah, here's the fourth issue." But I love you, and I absolutely respect your decision.
I'm not. It could fit into the favorite single issue category, though. The first issue is pretty damn powerful, and it had my heart. It had my heart singing. So I could say Midnite Show #1 was my favorite single issue of the year. I could do that.
It could
could
still,
do that.
and yeah, I mean, it could still also fall under one of your other specialized categories.
Yeah.
As a whole. Like,
But
whether
this book
it's
just makes my
fantasy or
heart
horror,
sing.
but
It really does.
I love the
freaking
cover of the
love
third
it.
issue that we're going to get with the three with the Dweller and the Necro Wolf and
Can't we just call it the creature? Like,
we
why
can.
do we can.
We can.
Dweller.
I'm fine with calling it the creature. We
so
know what we're
weird.
talking about.
It's weird.
I like that. Just thinking about it as we were breaking down Brian's resume, he's kind of with Midnight Show. He's basically drawn a book for each of us. You got the Sixth Gun for Jason with the Western motif, this for Vince, obviously, and I love the period noir of the Damned.
Yeah.
I've never read The Damned.
Oh my God!
Yeah. I never read it.
Well, we're gonna upload the form for November's book of the month, so there's a couple ideas for folks.
Yeah. There you go.
I kind of like the not so subtle nudge with the creature where it says, well, yeah, technically he only really appeared in one film. But that's not true because there was more than one creature from the Black Lagoon film. But it was different in subsequent films. Creature Walks Among Us is not the same creature as in Creature from the Black Lagoon. I mean, it is, but visually it's not. Yeah, this is just, oh my God, it's so good. And the thing for me is, because we buy so many comics, and you have to shuffle as necessary, right? And usually that shuffling is based on immediacy, like, I need to read this right now. So the closer the books are to the top of the stack each month, the more love we have for these titles. And hot damn, when I get a copy of The Midnight Show, it just leaps to the top of the stack. There's no questions. I need to read this right now, which was really weird that I forgot it last week because I don't have the luxury of the pull list function that we used to have, right? Where everything you just hit, the pull list thing and it just populates your order with all the stuff you buy. Like I actually have to go through the list every week and just put it in a notepad because when I go to the shop, I don't want to forget anything. But last week I did. Because I don't buy a whole lot of Dark Horse other than the Masters of the Universe stuff and a Hellboy thing or two that I just kind of like, okay, here's Dark Horse. Nah, there's nothing there. But the Midnight Show was like buried within the Dark Horse listing, and I missed it. And I'm dumb because I would say this is my favorite book right now. I don't think there's too much question about that, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
The Motorizar is such a dick.
Yeah. It's should we no, let's not tell them who pops up.
No. I mean, it's 2 weeks old, but no, it is though.
Yeah. It's but I was amazed at just how many people died in this issue.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And I mean, because after the first issue, you've established who the cast is and who you could be rooting for, and I mean, and they're just it's like Cullen's like don't get too attached. It's like Walking Dead up in this piece. Do not.
Yeah.
Don't.
But I'm thinking Cullen spent a good amount of time on Buddy and Trina's maybe sorta kind of relationship that I'm thinking we're going to see Trina again, or because he was wounded by the Necro Wolf, he's either going to wolf out, and I think the Mummy is going to have some sway over Trina because she's dead. So the Mummy could probably, hopefully he's got some infernal ability to reanimate the dead. I mean, look all around him. He's surrounded, but yeah. So I'm thinking.
I don't even know if there's anything left of Trina.
I don't think we've seen the last of Trina. If I know Cullen, he's not going to do something as he's not going to expend narrative fleshing out Trina the way he did to just have her get her face ripped off and get eaten in the second issue and just let it stay there. I think Trina's going to come back in some way.
What's up with the Necro Wolf though? Why not just call it a werewolf?
Because he was bitten by
Because
Dracula.
he's bitten by Dracula, dude. He's not just a wolf man. He's a necro.
That's why
wolf.
his face kind of like that. That's why I look at his nose.
Okay.
Kind of
Cool.
Which
Okay.
makes me so. If you were bitten by Dracula, and you have lycanthropy, can you also employ the various abilities of a vampire? Like, can you turn to smoke or a bat?
I guess we'll find out.
That's going to be really neat. Like, we've only scratched the surface of the Necro Wolf. And when this is all over, hopefully the wolf survives and we get a Necro Wolf miniseries. Because that's just a good idea.
With your vast
it's been
knowledge of everything. Okay, it has.
Yeah, it's been
all
done.
right.
Yeah.
Well, or just
Oh, yeah.
just have fun with it? Okay.
Yeah. Spanish. Yes. Yeah. The Paul Nashi. There was an incarnation of the Wolfman that was bitten by a vampire. Yes.
It does. It makes sense. It is.
It's awesome.
It's a great concept.
Yeah.
I can't believe it took.
What would happen
this for it to click that it just.
What would happen if Dracula bit Frankenstein? Probably nothing, because he's
already dead.
He's technically dead. But I mean, no, he is animated. But yeah, I don't know how that would work. It's cool to think about, right? But yeah. The Mummy's a prick.
What if the werewolf bit Frankenstein's monster? Would he turn into?
That's the whole thing. If you're out in the moors in the full moon and you're wounded by a werewolf, you get lycanthropy as well. You turn into or you get the curse. Every full moon, you will turn into a wolf.
I've seen American Werewolf in London.
Yeah. Oh man. Here's the thing that pisses me off. We were doing something in class, and the subject of werewolves came up, and I'm just like, did y'all ever see the transformation scene in American Werewolf in London? And they're just like, and I brought it up on YouTube, and I showed them, and they're just like, oh well.
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong?
You're an old head professor.
What is wrong with you? This is one of the best scenes in horror cinema history, and it's not doing anything for you. And then when he bites the head off and it rolls across, they were just like, whatever. I was like, okay.
Kids today.
So out of touch. Like, I love that movie. That movie's great. Yes.
All-time classic.
It is a wonderful movie.
Yeah.
And the Nazi werewolves, chef's kiss.
Poor Griffin Bunn.
Yeah.
Man, I haven't seen that in a minute.
The piece of
What's
flesh.
funny is I was flipping through the channels the other night. I think it was last weekend, and fucking BBC America was showing it. That's why it's on top of mind. But it was the first time I remember. It's the first time I saw any scenes of it. It's after the shower scene, and he's about to turn because he's pacing through the living room, and he's like, it's about to hit. So I know exactly what Vince is talking about, but those handful of minutes was the most, or it's the first I've seen any of the movie in ages, in a lot of years. So yeah. It's definitely been a minute.
Jenny Agutter, however you pronounce her last name. Oh, good God, she's beautiful. Just beautiful. But the scene, whenever after what's his face gets attacked, Griffin Dunn, and he's got that piece of flesh that's hanging from his neck, and whenever he talks, it starts flapping and shaking and jiggling. That I was howling appropriately when on the big screen. Like, movie. That is nuts. The howling's great too. The first Howling's really great. Yeah. But whatever. We're getting sidetracked. Read the Midnight Show, Jim Oaks. It's so good.
I mean, we're at the halfway mark now, but definitely. I hope we get more.
But it's been jam-packed so far. Like,
I know. It's crazy. It's absolutely, it's one of my favorite things Cullen's written. And I mean, I've enjoyed a lot of his stuff. I love the fucking band, and I think the Sixth Gun is great. But I'm absolutely loving Midnight, which is so weird because of the subject matter. But it's just great seeing this team back together again. doing a cool story.
But it just makes me wonder.
About?
Why did Cullen take so long? Like, this is a no-brainer. Like, don't you think? Like, Cullen has made his mark on comics as a writer of horror, right? Mm-hmm. Why has it taken him so long to do this?
Maybe, well, we can ask him, but maybe it's one of those things where, like, a lot of his work, I mean, I'm not going to talk about, like, the monster stuff for Marvel, but his indie work, his creator-owned stuff, like, it all seems to basically original ideas, more or less, whereas this is actually borrowing on subject matter that we're all familiar with. And maybe if he had done it earlier in his career, it might have been one of those things where, he's just that's his shtick. That's whereas now he's obviously had so much success and so many pieces of work under his belt. Yeah, he can kind of have fun and just mess around with this. I'm guessing. I don't know.
But it's so smart. Like, let's just use Frankenstein and Dracula because they're both public domain. Smart. It's not the Wolfman from Universal. It is a Wolfman or a werewolf. It's not the Mummy. It's a mummy. Like, that's just smart. Does it matter to anybody that this is not Amenhotep or whatever from the original? Like, who cares? It's a mummy, right? And yes, it's not the creature. We won't call it the name that they call it because it's silly. But it's not the creature. It is a creature that is very reminiscent of the creature. But it's just so smart. I think, and at the end, again, that person, super smart.
I wonder if also maybe Dark Horse had it for a while, and they were just like, "Oh, okay, it's going to be we're entering the Halloween season, so let's."
You don't sit on a Brian Hurtt book. You get that shit.
I would.
Well, right. It could also be that Cullen. Like Brian was finally looking to work again in comics, and they were like, "Let's do it."
Maybe.
Yeah. Brian's
maybe.
like, "Oh, I've always want to do some of the Universal monsters. Can we do something with that?" And Cullen's like, "Oh, that's not a bad. Who knows?"
Poor Trina. I love this book.
Cullen on the show. We've only talked about it for 15 years. We might find out the answers to these things.
Trina's she was a cutie. Not anymore. But at one time it was so vicious the way he just ripped that damn face off.
It was like a Mission Impossible mask ripoff. It was crazy.
Yeah. And you see the mouth? The mouth was all oh God.
Oh, God, Lord.
Yeah. Well done, boys.
Speaking of dead, or almost dead, something else I decided to just try to win. Because I do like Ablaze's output to a degree, but this is called Almost Dead, written by Galaxy. That's it. Art by Ryan Benjamin. However, the cover is by Tyler Kirkham. John Livesey does inks, and it's a zombie book. I'll say we're introduced to a young woman who's getting off a plane. The plane is at the sky, and when it lands, she deplanes, and it's extremely humid outside because it's July, and so of course people talk about what do you expect. She's landed in Maryland, and she's on her way to see. To visit her Uncle Owen. No idea if Aunt Beru is there as well, but she's walking towards and on her BlackBerry, which kind of gives me an idea as to what era this story takes place in. But she's on her BlackBerry, doesn't have a lot of bars, so none of her messages have gone through to let everybody know that she's on her way. She was thinking about calling her uncle, but the whole idea of her coming back is because it's supposed to be a surprise. The mailbox is also full, so there's really even no point in calling. She's on her way to the restroom, and there's a dude like by the moving walkway on the other side of it, and he's just like scratching at a wall. His back is to her, so she doesn't. We don't see. She doesn't see what it is he is, but he's when we get the panel close up of the back of his head and his shoulders, he's like doing a low grumble. He looks bruised, disheveled, but he is just scratching at the wall, and she's just kind of like walking by. There, that's weird. She's from a far enough distance where she's not like walking by him. She just sees him, but makes her way towards the restroom, and you hear somebody help, and she's not paying any mind. So she's in the restroom now, and this woman is screaming at the guy who is scratching at the wall, saying, begging him, please, you're bleeding, just stop. And then the police show up, and they're like, you're hurting yourself, please desist. And she's like, this woman is just screaming at this dude, just like, whatever the hell you're doing. And that's when he turns around, and he starts growling at her. And now you have a few people who were just like, let's just go. Mind your business. Nothing to see here. Let's just keep moving. But you have a couple other people who are just like, oh my God. And they're just staring and kind of sort of getting involved. They do see the dude has blood on his hands, but then they're also looking at his face, and he's very pale or gray. They just keep, he looks just wrong. There's something physically about his appearance that just, you would not try to have a conversation with this dude. But these police officers are just trying to say, hey, this is your last warning. We need you to calm down. We need you to stop what you're doing. It's like he hasn't said anything. He's not doing anything. He's just like kind of nonchalantly meandering to them. And then you see him like scratch at the top of his head. And then you see him start to rip pieces of himself in shadows. It's not in detail. And then he lunges at the cops. One of them tries to pull out his weapon. But before we see any of that, we cut back to the young lady in the restroom. She's washing her face, and then she's thinking about a flashback. So Sarah is the young lady, but she's talking to a little boy by the name of Jake. An older person is an adult is holding on to Sarah's hand. So the three of them are all walking towards this house. And Jake asks Sarah if, he can stay in her room tonight. And she says, sure, I will always protect you. But her Uncle Owen has this sketchbook, and he's tapping away on a computer, and he's just like, he's telling Sarah, my work is off limits. Don't go rifling through my papers. Don't come down here and check any of this out. And she's just looking through this sketchbook of a bunch of drawings where there is somebody who looks like a pharaoh. There's some dinosaurs here. There's a drawing of a skull. It's not a good looking. It's a sketchbook that seems to be filled with violent acts or the aftermath of violent acts. Sarah just thinks the book is freaking spooky. She's startled by a bunch of loud bangs, possibly the gunfire, and she makes her way to the door, slips, and when she slips and she hits her head on the floor, she also kicks down the bar that prevents the door from anyone from coming into the restroom. It's a security feature. And while she is knocked out, we seem to be transported to Egypt, where a bunch of slaves are basically enrobing. You think that they're about to basically perform the ritual to make mummies, but heads are getting cut off instead as they're all laying on this table, and so they're just all the heads are all just kind of tossed in a pit. And then we see 3 days later, Sarah wakes up on the floor of the restroom missing one of her shoes, and dried blood caked on her head. Has no idea what the hell happened. She's picking up her phone. She takes the bar away from the door so she can step outside into the concourse of the airport. The whole place is empty, and like the floor is dirty, the walls are filthy. Her BlackBerry screen is cracked. Battery is dead. She's like, but it was full when I was landed. That's so weird. She has no idea about the time change and or the jump. She didn't know she was out for more than 3 days. And she's walking by one of the windows. It's an airport, so you have nothing but windows looking out onto the tarmac and the runways. And she sees 3 people standing over someone else that's laying down on the ground. And she can't make out that these dudes aren't exactly human or alive, but they are wearing. They're obviously airport employees because they're wearing the safety vests and the earmuffs, and so they're just staring at this body on the ground. But Sarah starts tapping at the window, and now they turn around and they look up, and they're not doing anything. They don't wave back or anything, and she's just like, "Oh, I know they saw me. They're just so rude." And then you see she goes down the escalator, and in the distance there are some other zombies banging on a window, trying to get to her. And again, she's not. Her vision is obviously impaired because she can't make out how these people are looking. Makes her way outside. Head's killing her still. It's bright. Still no idea where anyone is. Cars are just not moving on the streets, in the parking lot of the airport. They're all abandoned. And she's just like, I got to get home. I don't know if there's a power outage or something. This is just so weird. Car won't start. One of the ones she just goes up to and tries to get inside and opens the door. Car won't start. All the cars are empty. She's trying to figure out if the cars were just running until they all ran out of gas. She still feels dizzy. She tries a minivan and gets inside and goes to try and tries to turn the engine. But then this woman comes banging up on comes running up onto the van and starts banging on the driver's side window. You got to help me. You got to help me. It's right behind me. You got to open the door. And Sarah's just completely out of it. And she's just dazed and confused and completely, she's looking straight at this woman. No idea what the hell this woman's carrying on about. She's not even sure if what she's seeing is actually real. She's just completely just concussed, obviously. But one of these creatures, zombies, walkers, whatever, grabs this woman who is trying to get help, rips her to shreds, chomps away on her. Sarah's conked out again, asleep, literally asleep at the wheel. But what's weird is that the back of the minivan, the trunk, the door is open, so anybody could kind of just help themselves in. So it's night. It's very dark. She wakes up again. It's now 11 o'clock at night. All she's thinking to herself is, "Oh, I must have passed out after my flight. Why is my head killing me?" She's not. She does end up getting this van to start, and she's like, "Oh my God, the city has gone down the drain. It's so messy everywhere." She's just completely oblivious to everything going on around her. You would have thought this was made to be a comedy or something, but they're playing it straight. She's trying to remember how the hell to get to her uncle's house. She thinks, because she's fucking out of it, she thinks this is a rental car. She thinks the rental company gave her this minivan, and she then requests a minivan. That's just how completely gone she is. Van finally runs out of gas, so she hoofs it back. She hoofs it the rest of the way. Pretty sure she's she's made it to her uncle's house. It's extremely dark. Door's locked. No one's answering the door. She climbs up to the second floor window. She's feeling weak. Can't open it. Feels like she's about to pass out again. Knocks on the window some more. Screaming for someone to open the door. Screaming for Uncle Owen. She's through the window. She's looking in the room. Someone's coming into the room. She's still knocking, but of course she falls back because she's not graceful at all. Lands on the ground. And you see a shadow looking over her body as it's the end of the issue. Unfortunately, the next issue blurb and cover. Well, the cover could be just another person who's trying to, survive in whatever the hell world this is. But the blurb for the next issue kind of gives away what that last panel was about. As first issue, I figured I'd try it. 'Tis the season and all that, but I won't be back for the second issue just because it's hard for me to worry about whether or not Sarah's going to survive the story, because I can't believe she survived this far. She's been passed out for most of the issue, and everything's going on around her. It's just, it would probably, if you were watching this, if it was a movie or a show, the tension would probably be there. You'd have the music, you'd have the suspense and the tension. But here, you're flipping pages, and it's just, you don't get that. I wasn't getting any of the drama that you would get from an issue of The Walking Dead, for example. And I don't want to compare it to that because it's low-hanging fruit, but it's just, I was hoping I'd kind of get more out of it, and I didn't.
See, this is a problem.
What?
This is not a unique situation with the zombie genre. The general public are so stupid in zombie movies, and the main characters slightly less so, but that's what set Walking Dead apart. I'm not talking about the comic, and maybe I am, but the TV show, that's what set that first episode of Walking Dead apart from the standard zombie genre stuff, was that Rick knew pretty much immediately that he was in a bad spot. He didn't know exactly what was going on, but he knew that he had to stay away from other people. As soon as you see somebody ripping apart another human being, don't you think, like, something's up, right? Like, and then when you see it again, doesn't that convince you that there's something going on that's affecting people? I don't expect the main players in a zombie anything, book, novel, comic, movie, whatever, to be Michio Kaku. Like, I don't need super intelligence going into this, but when you see, like, it's a classic Romero setup where there's somebody in the distance or away from the main character, and they're not acting quite right. They're shuffling or they're moving erratic in strange ways, and then they do something that's like, holy shit, this person's not right. And you may think it's an isolated incident, but like, if you're tapping on the window and there's people outside, they're just like, something's up. Like, don't you get it? Like, that's a problem. And to me, it's just lazy writing. It's just the writers not doing an adequate job setting up people aren't that stupid. If you were in a riot, what would you do? Get away from people. Or try to get away from people. A zombie infestation is the same thing as a riot. Just stay away from people. Or whatever these things are. It's not that hard to write a convincing anything in the zombie genre. But yet we get the same stuff where the main characters are so dumb that they don't get what's going on until a secondary or tertiary character gets killed. And they're just like, oh, this shit's weird. Like, it's not that hard. Like, I don't know. And what you were telling me was like, I would have tapped out way earlier than you did. Like, I probably would. I would never have even finished the issue because this woman sounds incredibly stupid.
She really is.
And she's, and when you said, "Oh, the back of the van was open," like what? Crawl in the back of the thing and close the damn hatch. Like, why wouldn't you protect yourself? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, I'm incredibly hard on anything in the zombie genre because I'm just so tired of stupid characters. Whatever. But I mean, the art looks decent.
Yeah, I mean, because Benjamin's been around a minute.
Yeah, the art looks decent. It's just sad that
it's definitely serviceable. But I'm not even halfway through. I'm like, Vince would never.
No,
I mean, like you might the concept. Like we don't know why they're like the way they are. We don't know what happened yet, and that's fine. But it's just I can't even to get to that. I have to put up with this woman, and it's just like it's
right.
Such an obstacle. Like
it's tough. How can you root for someone or actually be concerned with the well-being of someone that is so dumb? Like you're done, just die.
Even before she was concussed, it was like she was kind of living in her own world, like oblivious to everything going on around her. And I'm just like, well, then so you're just going to Mr. Magoo your way through this nuclear holocaust. I can't.
Very nice, very nicely played. But it's just like, who has time for this shit? Right? Mm-hmm. And you just don't. And it may be one of those things where, she'll come around in issue like 4 or 5. Nobody has that kind of time. I got time for this. Like, you either survive or you don't. And I can see if it was like the Dawn of the Dead remake where the zombies were super fast, then we got a problem. Because you don't
even like World War Z, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have you don't have all that much time to react. But when they're shamblers, even if it's like a horde of them, I think you got a little bit of time to make a decision. Like you're okay.
Pump up your sneakers. And
just don't back yourself into a corner and you're good. Yes, I'm downplaying it, but in essence, that's pretty much what it is. Don't put a wall behind you or a building or something or a fence. Just get the hell out of the way. I don't know. It just doesn't. There's not a whole lot of common sense in zombie movies and comics and stuff. It is a problem. It is because but that's why Kirkman was so smart. Where they can be a threat if written well. And Kirkman showed that a bunch of zombies in the right situation can be a real frickin' threat. Even though they move super slow, there's way more of them than you. And if you're not cunning and, plan carefully your path of escape, you can get eaten pretty easily. But I think Kirkman's characters were on average, in aggregate, as they say,
nice.
Smarter than most characters in any zombie thing. Right? Rick is really smart. Hence his survival through like a whole lot of messes, right? And Michonne, like Daryl, Carol, they're all smart characters, but I've seen a lot of dumb bunnies in zombie films. Like Barbara's in Night of the Living Dead is super stupid. She's dumb. And she deserved to die. If you're dumb, you deserve to die in a zombie movie. It's just that's the bottom line. Yeah. Whatever. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to this. It has been brought to you once again by the wonderful people at cheapgraphicnovels.com. Cheap graphic novels. That's what you're going to get. Omniboo, graphic novels, OGNs, trade paperbacks, manga, all that stuff for a fraction of the price printed anywhere on it. Even Amazon, right? You're going to get an email saying, thank you for ordering from cheapgraphicnovels.com. You're going to reply to it saying, my buddies over at 11 O'Clock Comics told me to come, and Max is going to say, well done, sailor. Here's a free shipping on your next order. You're going to love it. And if you would be so kind, do us a solid and check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/11 o'clock comics. Whole lot of shaking going on over there. Audio, video, images, polls, a dedicated Slack channel that we all throw down every day about everything. So just check that out. 11 o'clock comics. It's patreon.com first, /11 o'clock comics. Two things of which I would like you to be aware. Did you know that the first issue of The Punisher arrived today? Now, why is that noteworthy?
I know why.
Other than the fact that it's a new incarnation of the Punisher, and I say whatever to that. The only reason why I looked at it in the first place is because it is beautifully drawn by our good friend Dave Wachter. Dave did an exemplary job on it. It is a wonderful thing to behold. I haven't read it yet, but it's out there and it's really nice to look at. So go get yourself the first issue of The Punisher. That's really not my In Your Travels. This is in my In Your Travels. In Your Travels. This was a Kickstarter that I recently received. It is a trade paperback. It's called Ink and Drink, Long Beach, Sewer Boys. Now, when I say Sewer Boys, who do you think of?
Well, not the Island Boys.
No, it's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, yo.
That's right.
Yeah, it is a bunch of artists under the who edited this? Let's see. Well, it says forward by Nathaniel Solo, and there's a bunch of people involved in this. The whole thing is, it is an homage. It's a tribute, a loving tribute to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because the book is dedicated to Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. Take it from there. Now, the representation of the Turtles swings wildly. Some of them are by the numbers, and they're very much in the spirit of Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, and others, not so much, which is cool because we get to see our boys rendered in a variety of different styles and approaches. Here's the cool thing about this, though. There is a narrative in the beginning of the first part of the book. The back of the book, it's all like pinups and stuff, and different artists tackle the Turtles and other characters from the Turtles universe. But there's a story going on here, and they must have passed around pages to the artists, and some artists took the same pages. So as you're reading this, the story is progressing, and something will happen on one page, and you take note of the dialogue because it's very Turtle-esque, right? Or should I say Eastman and Laird-esque. And then the next page, it's the same events. So more than one artist worked on a particular page, which I think is really cool because it's like a Spider-Verse type thing where there's a glitch in reality, and you see, events depicted through the lens of one artist, and then the very same events depicted through the lens of a different artist. I like that. I think it's the same dialogue, it's the same narrative captions, it's pretty much the same everything, but interpreted by different artists. That's a very unique approach, and I really like this book a lot. It's black and white, as it should be. So, you get cartoony turtles, you get Eastman and Laird turtles, you get hyper-realistic turtles, you get expressive, surreal-looking turtles. Like, it spans the gamut. This is a really cool exercise. So if you love, like me, and hopefully everybody listening to this, if you love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I would really take, I don't know where to get this. It was a Kickstarter, but I'm sure if you Google Ink and Drink Long Beach Sewer Boys with a Z, something's going to come up. It's wonderful. But I'm a diehard Turtle fan. So, I mean, there's even some pictures of the Teenage Mutant Ninjas. Like, there's one page where Shredder's going, he's recounting the history of how he encountered the Boyz. And it's also an homage to Mega Man, because it says, select your turtle. And it's the Mega Man, character selection screen. And it has Leo and Mike and Donnie and Raph, but they're the action figures. And there's a dot screen on them. Some of the artists took great liberties with the narrative, because the very same part of the narration where Splinter is recounting his events, he says, I began training then teaching you all that I had learned from watching 80s action movies, which is not the same thing as previous pages. But the Turtles are now Optimus Prime, Snake Eyes, Godzilla, and Usagi Yojimbo. So it's like, okay. But they don't appear anywhere else other than that page. So yeah, he took liberties with the narrative, but it doesn't continue past his page, whoever this artist was. I can look it up. It doesn't really matter. So yeah, it's cool. It's a neat little off the cuff, loving tribute to our boys from the sewer. Hence the title, Sewer Boys. It's great. Go get it. I forget how much it was. Maybe $20. I don't know. But it's good. Really good. If you're a Turtle fan, you need it.
Excellent.
Yeah. You guys didn't back it.
I gotta get it. No, I didn't. I do remember seeing it, though. I remember seeing it posted. I don't know why the hell I didn't back it.
There was a couple of guys on the Slack that don't reside within the United States were kind of salty that the postage was so much.
For sure.
Yeah. So maybe, that I'm sure stateside people can grab this on the cheapness. But if you don't reside within the wonderful boundaries of the United States, it may be difficult to procure this. I don't know. It was fun. I again, as with everything I talked about tonight, it's just pure nostalgia, comfort stuff with my four turtle friends.
If you go to the Kickstarter, you click order it now. You can get it for $25.
$25
from Erwin Papa. .storeenvy.com.
Is that shipping included?
Probs not.
It's only, I'll be totally honest, since, complete transparency is our goal. It's around
124 black and white pages.
Yeah, I think 25 is pushing it for this. In terms of value, is there $25 worth of turtle joy within these pages? Yes. But if you're a materialist,
right,
you would compare this to other trade paperbacks from other publishers and be like, 25 is a tad bit steep for this.
Yeah, and just going through the motions, once it's in your shopping cart, standard shipping is about $7. So now you're after the $30 mark.
Yeah. That's a bit. Yeah, I'd tell you the truth. If I didn't back the Kickstarter, I wouldn't pay $30-some for this.
Yeah, because your print copy, was $20. That included the PDF. You could have gotten the PDF for $8. But yeah, it's so and the funding ended in September. So I do remember seeing.
Are not a bonus for me. Like whatever.
No. I mean, it's nice to throw it in if you're buying the print one as it is, but it's not. No, I don't know anybody who's, I got the physical copy. Now let me go and rip up my iPad and read it there.
yeah. Let me put this book on the shelf and only read it on my digital device.
And it's fine if you're commuting and you're like, oh, listen, I'm about to go, so I got to hop on this plane, so I'm not going to take this book with me. Okay,
Yeah,
that's great. But still, that's just...
I'm a lump. I don't go anywhere. So
I know.
Digital stuff is nothing to me. I don't care.
I know.
That's a big perk within the role-playing Kickstarter arena, where they're just like, oh, if you, and I can see where, role-playing digital version, that's cool, because then you don't have to take 10,000 books to the table with you when you're embarking on a campaign. Or if you're a DM, that's a luxury to be able to just flip through your iPad for rules and stuff, where you don't have to take a stack of books with you. That's cool. But for comics, don't care.
In your travels.
Nice.
Speaking of PDFs, because that's how I was able to get this, because it's not out. Actually, depending on where you look online, it was either supposed to be out this week, or if you go to cheapgraphicnovels.com, you'll see the release date is next week. But I'm talking about From Z2 by Dr. Dave Chisholm, Miles Davis and the Search for the Sound. And this is absolutely phenomenal. I know Dave has done other work on extremely talented musicians, and this is right up there with the rest of them. The art's absolutely fantastic. If you're familiar with Chisholm's work, you'll know exactly what you're getting here. It's got a foreword by Aaron Davis, but it is written, drawn, colored, and lettered by Dave. It was comprised, the story, the book itself, it's adapted from Davis's own words, from his autobiography, from essays, from interviews. There's a bibliography in the back. Breaks down the books, the articles, the liner notes, the videos that he read and watched to make this a reality. It's not necessarily Miles's origin story from when he was a little boy. I mean, it starts when he's making his way to New York. Originally for Juilliard, and he was there for a few semesters, but he wanted to make music. The book starts off in 1982, following his stroke, where the paralysis really fucked with his right arm, and so he wasn't able to play the trumpet. And his doctor, his therapist, says, listen, here's a pencil, put this in your right hand, the hand we're going to rehab, and just start drawing. And Miles is like, Doc, I don't draw. And he's like, nah, I get that. This is going to be a new thing for you. And he starts to draw, and he starts to scribble. And we cut to 1933, where he's walking through, a young Miles Davis is walking through the woods, and he hears music, but music he's never heard before. And that's all it took. It's like, that's all he wants to do. And so yeah, he it's a handful of years later, and he's on a train leaving East St. Louis to get to New York. And he talks about meeting Bird and Dizzy, and what Miles Davis was trying to do with music, and talked about what some of the other musicians were doing, and how their music isn't necessarily, hummable or something that's going to stick with you for a while. It's kind of just, it is what it is. It's their music, it's theirs, but Miles has something else in mind, and what he envisions, and the other musicians, the other artists he works with, they all need to kind of basically, he's not trying to be a band leader where he's telling everybody what to do. Everybody needs to feel their music and do what they want to do, and it'll all work. So Miles has very kind of different style than some other musicians and band leaders, but it's just so well done. His father's super supportive. Whatever son wants to do, whatever Miles wants to do, Dad's going to back him. Irene, the mother of his daughter, shows up because Miles's mom told Irene where to find Miles, and so Charlie Parker was living with Miles at the time, but they got Charlie another place to stay while Irene and the baby was with Miles. Obviously, it wasn't an easy relationship. Books broken up across chapters, and we see other executives, other musicians, other artists and creators that Miles meets along the way. It's a beautiful book. Like I said, the hardcover should be out next week, but this was phenomenal. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. Shout out to Dave for sending the PDF. It's an amazing piece of work. So yeah, in your travels, definitely check out Miles Davis and The Search for the Sound.
Cannot wait.
You're gonna love it.
Yeah, for sure. In your travels, check out. I believe the first issue was in your travels as well. So maybe I'll actually talk at length about one of these issues. But in your travels, check out Rare Flavors #2.
Yes.
Written by Ram V with art by Philippe Andrade. This book is. It had big shoes to step into because the Many Deaths of Layla Starr, was one of the it books of that year and won all the awards, and was a great book. For me, just because of the kinds of things that I'm into, this book is running way past that book, and I love that book. As we talked about the first issue, it's basically about a Raksha Indian demon who comes to Earth to essentially be Anthony Bourdain, and because he loves food that much. And the first issue they focused on tea and crafted a story that was in part, again, like Anthony Bourdain, like a very detailed description of the history of tea, the uses of it, the way they prepare it, the right way to prepare it, and so forth. But then it had a horror twist ending. Same thing here. This issue finds our Rakshi and his documentarian friend in a bus going through a very arid part of the country with a new person in their crew, a driver, heading to find what is basically a gigantic field where they harvest a certain type of chili. It's the Mathanya Lal Mirch chili, and it is a staple in Indian cuisine. That it's a very hot chili, measures 70,000 on the Scoville scale, and it's basically their journey there. And just like in the first one, we learn about the history of these chilies, their best way to prepare them. Our favorite food demon crafts a wonderfully delicious stew with the chilies, featuring it's lal mas with red meat, wild red meat, and a chili broth. And let's just say that because dude is a demon, not everybody in the entourage generally makes it out alive, even though he's a pretty happy-go-lucky dude aside from that. It's just like I said with the first dude, it's just ridiculously quirky. Andrade's art just sings in this. I love books that take this little aside to give us this minutia about something. It's one of the reasons I love Moby Dick. It's Moby Dick's one of my favorite books of all time, and I would say it's a book where I totally understand if someone hates it, because there are entire chapters devoted to the very minutia of things like scrimshaw or whaling or sailing. It gets just very almost tedious, and that's kind of the point. because it's supposed to draw you into the process, and so that I love things like that, and this book does that much less tedious way than something like Moby Dick for sure. But yeah, just wonderful stuff, and certainly I know Dap. This is a book he'll love, whether when he but issue by issue or as a series, and this is if you're a foodie, and I know lots of you in our circle of influence are both comic fans and foodies. This book is a home run. You can't not be reading this book. What's the matter with you? Vince, you don't have to read this book. You don't like food, but
no, I'm 0 for 2 in your travels. So there you go.
Yeah, because you hate Miles Davis. I mean,
no, Miles is my dude.
I know,
but no. I have you ever heard me speak on a comic based on a musical artist? I just won't read them. I just don't. I passed on the alt-red Bowie thing. I don't think the two worlds should collide. But that's just me. Like, who cares?
Yeah,
who cares?
It's cool. Yeah, it's all good.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening to this. Come back next time where we'll have more of the same. And maybe a sandwich. A cookie? Pizza?
Oh, what are we, Claremont over here?
Ooh.
Maybe one of mine. Go to a comic shop, buy some comics, talk about them, banter amongst your friends, but come to the socials because we have presences on Facebook and Threads, and we have the dedicated Slack channel. You can join that if you want. So just talk about comics. Yes. In the meantime, say good night. She's going to attack me if I do this. David.
Good night.
She let me down. Oh, she's sleeping.
Aw.
No, she's not.
David.
Nice.
Not bad.
Tell them that you love them more than oxygen.
More than words.
I mean, but I need oxygen to breathe so that I can
Well,
keep
we
telling
need
them I
them.
love them.
Right. But we need them as much as we need oxygen. Well, not as much as we need oxygen. That's silly. Or water. Or food. Yes, but we need you people a lot.
We do.
So just come back. We'll be here.
Probably next week, yeah.
Seems likely.
There's no probably. Even if it has to be one of us, we'll be here next week.
There's the one of us. We can make it a good job. There's the one of us.
That's it for that one.